This is the Testimony of My Life series, and we are at 3. In the first episode, I was talking about my relationship with God beginning from my childhood, and in the second part, I shared about my great encounter with God in 2016, and how I got burned out in ministry, and that I went to a small shack without electricity and water just to seek God for 2 years. And I shared a few aspects of this retreat season of my life, and I'm gonna continue from that in this third part. I have a great friend who devoted his whole life to God, and he offered up his horsing farm to God and to his purposes. So actually he allowed me to live there for 2 years just to be with God. And it was quite challenging because it was like 2 kilometers away from the road, in the woods, and yeah, there was no electricity, no bathroom, no place to take shower, nothing, and we only had candles and that was it, and the stove. And you can imagine it was quite challenging to live there, but I wanted it, so I went there so that I can stretch myself, and not just like emotionally, like some motivational speakers would advise, like you need to stretch yourself and broaden your horizon and stuff like that. And it's all true, it all happened to me there, but there was a very much a spiritual aspect to it. For example, there was such a sense of vulnerability and helplessness there. I was so dependent on God, not just with my relationship with Him, but in every other sense. So just the fact that I could like walk through the woods late at night to the shack alone, not being attacked by wild animals, or just to have enough food to be able to connect with people without electricity. I couldn't recharge my phone and things like that. So I was dependent on God with my existence, so not just like with my dreams or goals, or like we always depend on God when our efforts are not enough. So we do everything we can, and then we leave the rest to God. And I think it was absolutely not an option for me there. Like I couldn't leave the rest to God. My whole life was in the part of that rest, that part that should be given up and given completely up to God. So there was a crazy sense of vulnerability there, and it was very liberating. Like just a situation that I can't control my life and I can't make things pleasant for myself is something that hurts first. Like, oh, it feels strange, it feels uncomfortable, like I need to be more in charge of the things going on around me. And yeah, it hurts that I can't have the ownership of my own life, and it feels like your life is just passing by and you can't have a voice and you can't direct it. but it's the greatest sense of freedom when you finally give that up, trying to control your life and trying to be responsible for everything that is going on in your life. Like, I couldn't even take care of myself. Like, people gave me food, they helped me bring my things and helped me with transport and stuff. So I was so dependent, and it was so weird. And but that's the kingdom. Like, he loves to be responsible for everything and take care of you. And it's not just a sense of liberation, like, oh, there's such a freedom in the feeling of vulnerability. It is true, but it's way much more than that. Like, if I give up control of even the basics in my life, like, I can learn such a trust in God that makes my relationship with Him completely different. Like, it just shifts so many things in my relationship with Jesus when I no longer believe that I'm in charge of my life. And there were times when there was one woman who came there just to give me a grilled chicken. And she dropped the grilled chicken in the farm, and then she went away. And I didn't even know her. And she just felt like doing that. And that's how God provided for me. But it's not an exceptional story. Like, God was providing for me like every day. Not always such a crazy way. That, like, there were people coming to the farm just for the beauty, just for the horses, and they brought food, and it was kind of natural way of providing for me. But there were absolutely extreme issues as well when it was like absolutely not reasonable that people gave me stuff without knowing my situation. And without knowing that I actually live there. I'm not just there for a trip or something. So this experience of total helplessness is a very spiritual one. So it helps your health and mental health as well when you stretch yourself. But there is something spiritual about finally being forced to be completely dependent on God. And I don't say that you need to go to such a place, live in a small farm, deprive yourself of all the normal things of life so that you can learn this. But there is something to such a situation. Like, you can learn this in any other way. Like, Holy Spirit is quite creative with that, teaching you things. But in such a situation, you are forced to learn that. Like, there is no other option for you. And it helped me a great deal. I'm a control freak, so just to learn that I'm free to have no ownership of my own life just made me feel free for the first time in my life. One of the greatest lessons living in the shack was learning how to open up myself to Jesus. I was there to be with God. Like, that was the whole point of it all. And I thought if I sit down and wait on Him for days or for weeks, supernatural things would happen and I'm gonna be such a glory. And it did happen at times. Like, I had some crazy experiences from that season. So if you're interested, check out my videos between 2017 and 2019. That was the time when I lived in this shack. But in the first season, And even after that, quite regularly, I had times when I sat down to be with Jesus and nothing positive happened. Actually, quite the contrary. I felt like I'm way down. I have so many bad thoughts. There are so many lies. They're rumbling around in my head. I just don't know why I have this pain and bad memories coming up. Like, am I doing something wrong? Is it a spiritual attack? Like, what's going on? I'm supposed to feel quite well. I devoted my whole life to Jesus. Like, what? Why is it not working for me? Like, why am I not in a crazy glory? And I thought it was my fault, and it took some time for Jesus to explain that to me, that it is not because I lack his presence. This happens exactly as a result of his presence. Not because he causes bad things. He is good and there is no darkness in him. He wouldn't cause anything painful to us. But the very fact that these lies and pains were bubbling up was the proof that he was at work, and he wanted to deal with these issues. He wanted to go back to my memories and change things and show me how he thought about feelings and traumas in my life. There was a time it happened also in the shack. But I had a specific encounter just about going back to a memory and changing it with Jesus. It is called a walk in my remembrance, or going back to my remembrance. Maybe that's the title of this video. It's a daily experience video, and yeah, basically the whole encounter was a setup for me going back to a happening in my childhood and re-experiencing it with Jesus. And yeah, it was really powerful. Like at the end of this experience, when we rewrote the whole scene, I felt so powerful that I felt like there's so much power in my hands. Like I was afraid to move it. Like I felt like, Evie, be careful with what you say, because if you say, it will happen whether you want it or not. Like I was like, I felt like I am God, and it sounds maybe scandalous, but that's how it felt like. I felt all powerful, and I felt as if I could do literally anything. So it's like, I won't lift a finger because the half of the universe will be out. But it was just one occasion of God dealing with bad stuff in my mind. But there were days and months when all that happened in the presence of God was me sitting, feeling bad, and then Jesus just brought up something and he pointed out, oh, that's what we are going to talk about. And yeah, it's nothing wrong with that. It's not because you do something wrong. He is actually so loving and so caring that he won't leave us in the way we are. And his kingdom and his presence is just not compatible with all the stupid things we have in our heads. That's why these things come to the surface, because you are in the presence, so these things have to go. And so I don't say that it's very good if we over spiritualize it, like, oh, I'm still not free, I need to get rid of that, and I need decades of inner healings to feel well or something. It's not that. Jesus just brought it up so that he can share his mind on it. and he can love you out and talk you out of the lie you believe in. So the relationship with Jesus is quite therapeutic, and it has a sense of inner healing to it. And I'm quite careful with inner healing because I don't believe in inner healing and I do believe in inner healing at the same time. Like, I don't believe in inner healing when we think that inner healing is something you reach after time. Like, you work on yourself for decades, and after some extraordinary time, you will feel better. I think inner healing is just realizing what Jesus has already done for you and who you really are originally created to be. And Jesus just explaining and revealing that to you, how healthy and okay you actually are in Him, and what your new creation nature actually is, and how it works, and how free it is. And He just teaches you when these lies and traumas come out, like, oh, this is not who you are. You are free to think like you are a healthy person. So in one sense, it's very much inner healing, but on the other hand, it's not about a process. It's about a revelation of an ever-present health that has been earned by Jesus on the cross. So it's funny to watch people entering full-time ministry, absolutely healthy people who never had mental issues, and they report that they struggle with stuff, and some pain is coming to the surface, and they cry every morning, and they tell me, like, is it a spiritual attack, or what's wrong with them? What do they do wrong? And they ask my advice, like, you've been in full-time ministry for a long time, so you surely know how to deal with these. And I don't know how to deal with these. But all I can say is it's okay to have it and experience these things. And it's not the opposite of God's presence. It's actually the result of God's presence that these things come to surface. And even people who are absolutely healthy have so many things suppressed and oppressed in their brains. And actually, people are so busy that they don't have a capacity in their minds and in their emotions to have these things on the surface and have these things on the table. So there is a psychological aspect to it that we just don't take the time and attention to deal with these things. But there is also a very spiritual side to it, that Jesus takes your intention to spend your whole life on Him quite seriously. And He's like that, okay, so now you decided to spend your whole life with me. I'm so happy. And you also said that you're gonna do anything I would like to do. I'm so glad to hear that. So let's start with you. And most people in ministry want to save the world, and okay, it's all about missions, and I'm finally doing God's work full time. And God is like that, oh, it's okay, you offered up your whole life. Like, I'm gonna take some time working on you. Maybe most of it, probably all of it. And we are actually devastated when we realize that, oh, it's not about saving the whole world, it's about Jesus slowly helping me opening up myself to Him. Like, we think it's a disaster, it's a disappointment, like, oh, I thought I'm gonna make a revival. And Jesus says, probably you will, I don't even care. All I care about is you allowing me to deal with all the stupid lies you believed in. And so many people don't allow Jesus to do that. Like, they just have these devotions, and they get charged with Jesus, and they experience great things, and Jesus is like, okay, I fill you up anytime, I give you anything, I've given you everything actually, so you can have as much as you want, anytime you want. But you said I can do what I want, so that's why I brought things up. So sadness and depression are not fruits of the spirit. So it's not like telling that, oh, feeling sad is actually a sign of the presence. No, but these wrong things coming up can be the sign of the presence, that Jesus is actually there and he knows that he's in charge, and he wants to talk about the very things that are not compatible with his presence. Yeah. So when you give space to Jesus and time and attention to work on your relationship with each other, it can happen quite often that he decides to deal with something wrong that's been always going on, that's been suppressed, or that you have never felt compelled to deal with. And he oversees the whole process. So if he brings it up, like, he knows what he's doing, and just leave it there, let him do it. That's my advice. I that's how I experience this. The other thing this season of retreat taught me is how to go against the flow, how to have my own revelations, even if they don't fit any stream, any theological concept, any church doctrine, how to allow myself to receive revelations and understandings that just don't fit any picture, not even mine. That's exactly what getting to know Jesus means. Like, he shows something you've never seen. Like, if you have already seen it, it wouldn't be new. So if you want to see something new from him, it will be probably shocking, because if it wasn't shocking, it would be because you probably thought it is the part of his nature already. But he's about to show you something that you didn't think it was a part of him. So it was a great deal of my season of retreat. My first retreat. I think I will have some more in my life. To learn how to hear and sense things that are not to be shared with others, or that are not very much appreciated. It's about learning confidence, and confidence in me, and confidence in our relationship, but first of all, confidence in him. Like, he is revealing himself, and he knows what he's doing. And even if it's wild, he knows I won't be crushed by the weight of this revelation. there were many times when he told me something that I couldn't put anywhere. I just put it on the shelf, left it there. Maybe, Jesus, you will find it out. You will show me later how this matches anything. And most of these things had been put to place later. But some of them are very confusing. And they weren't the things I could share with people and people would clap like, oh, you're doing great. That's what I expected you to hear from God. These were things that were unacceptable to people or not understandable at all. And it was a journey for me because first I was ashamed of like just to be myself, just to have confidence to look people in the eye and just to arrive in the room and say that, oh, here I am, hi. And now God just started to lead me into standing up for truths that are not very pleasant, like revelations of God's grace and how good He is and how much He's out of the box and how much He is wild and this truths of the kingdom that really divide people. So He was doing that slowly, and I don't say that it is a weight of the revelation. Maybe it's a bad expression because it's not weighty, it's not heavy, it's a light thing and it's a joyful thing, but it's still strange and you can't be appreciated for them. Like, I was so dependent on the encouragement of people, and Jesus just started to show me things of Himself that were way wilder than anybody has ever taught me before. And He just started to encourage me that you can live it, you can stand up for it, you can exercise it in front of everyone, because that is who we are together. And He just, in this season, He just showed me how to live with Him in a bubble. Like, we have our own universe, me and Jesus, and nothing else is in there. And all the environment and all the other factors in my world can't have a say into this bubble with Jesus. And I started to have a lot going on inside of this private universe with God. And this couldn't be shared with the other world. Not just because it was too high to share with others. It just, I couldn't translate it into words. And in most streams, people wouldn't agree with it. Like, they would think I was deceived, which I thought sometimes that I was deceived because it was so new what God has shown me. So it was a great journey in this retreat season when Jesus just started to build up my confidence and trust, and just letting Him be as wild as He wanted to be with me and show as crazy things as He wanted to show. And He also build up my confidence to able to share them and be bold about it in front of people. And in most streams, people love me and encourage me, so it wasn't like a great struggle. But I always had some revelations that I knew if I had shared them, it would have caused a crazy uproar. And I had to trust in this bubble of me and Jesus and our relationship enough to take these other perspectives lightly. Like, oh, it's okay, you can think whatever you want. Jesus has talked completely different things, and I'm quite okay with it. The other great lesson from the retreat season, which I would like to share with you, is letting go and stop striving. I am a control freak. I used to be one, at least. And I love to be responsible for everything and do things well. And when I gave up my whole life, like just letting it all go, I don't take responsibility for my private life. I won't have any career. I won't even do ministry. I'm gonna be just with Jesus. And it sounds so spiritual, but it wasn't actually. It meant that I gave up control of all these things in my life, and I will focus all my control on this one particular area left, which is the relationship with Jesus. So if I gave up doing them all, I'm gonna do it extra hard and extra well. Like, I need to do it so good that it would shock me and shock the whole spiritual realm and everyone around me. Like, I don't know whether I thought that exactly, but I had this weight on me that if I don't do anything else, at least this should be done extraordinarily well. And it made me suffer a lot, like especially in the first few months of being in the shack, because I was striving so hard and trying so hard. And you know what? Jesus is not really fond of our efforts. He kind of like waits in the corner with his arms crossed and waits for us to burn out, get tired, give up, and allow him to do what only he can do. And he has done it to me so many times. Like, I was trying hard, I was really doing it, and I felt I couldn't. Then I became depressed and sad and gave it up. And then Jesus came and solved the whole thing. And then I was in paradise, great experiences. Oh, how good it is to be with Jesus, and that's the meaning of life. Okay, let's do it even better. And then I started to strive again. And then I had less success, and then I was sad again, then I had to give it up again, and then Jesus picked me up, and it was so happy. And when it was so happy, I felt like maybe I'm free to start striving again. So this is an endless circle, and I was doing it a lot. And of course there was a learning involved. Like, every time I was over of such a circle, I felt better. Always like it was always like whole baggages filled with stones had been lifted off of my shoulders. So there was a point to making these circles, but I could have given it all up at the first time. Like, I don't think that all these circles were necessary. It was actually my choice. Like, oh, let's try striving again, and it didn't work again, and Jesus was quite expecting it. And he's quite strict about this with me. Like, he is so serious about giving it as as a gift that he doesn't allow to pay for it, you to pay for not even a bit of it. Like, okay, I'm gonna give my whole life to you, and I'm gonna spend my whole life on your presence, and I'm gonna do everything for it. And Jesus says, oh, great, I see that you love me and appreciate my presence. It feels great, I'm really thankful, but that's striving part of it. That you try to make it happen. That's what I'm gonna burn out of your thoughts. That's not compatible with my kingdom of grace. I'm gonna give everything free. And if you start to work for it, I'm gonna let you crush and get burned out, because that's what I won't bless. The only thing I bless is what I do. And if you're striving, then okay, let's do it. Like, let's try to drive as fast as you can, and let's see when you get burned out, and then I'm gonna show up and do what only I can do, actually. So it was tough, because I was so used to doing things well. Like, we have this concept, we inherited from the world this idea that the more effort you put in, the better the result. And when you give up control of areas of your life, you can fall into this trap of focusing even more attention to the other areas left in your control. Like, the same was with me with this presence thing. Like, I'm all about Jesus, then do it well. And yeah, Jesus taught a lot about how free is free, how much grace is grace, and how much we cannot add anything to it. And if we add to it, it doesn't just, oh, it's not that okay, or it doesn't help. It's not just the doesn't help category. It's actually ruining the whole concept of free grace. And God just doesn't allow it. And he doesn't allow it because he loves us. Like, I'm gonna give it free. Like, you wanna pay for it? I've already paid for it. There's an extra payment involved here. Who's gonna it be paid back to? So I just teach you in every way how to stop striving, because striving and my kingdom are two different dimensions and they can't be mixed together. And it is true in every area of the kingdom, but it's even more true when it comes to your relationship with Jesus. That when you give it up, he's more than happy to do what only he can do. He's so happy to be in charge of your relationship with each other. That was the greatest relief in my life, learning that I don't even need to take care of my relationship with Jesus, because he's way much better even in that than I am. And yeah, I wish that you would experience this freedom as well, of giving it all up and letting Jesus do it for you. It's so free and so easy. And I know sometimes it takes time to get rid of this old way of thinking that it's your responsibility and it's all on your efforts. But when he teaches you that his kingdom is free gift, then life just gets very easy and enjoyable. But first of all, your relationship with Jesus will be like, okay, we can be as close as you want to be. It's not on my shoulders anymore. And I wish that you would experience everything I've ever experienced with Jesus and I've ever learned from Jesus, but I wish that you would experience way much more. And I know that God is going to give you, by His grace, more than you could ever imagine, more than I could ever imagine. And please be free to share your thoughts and testimonies and ideas of what I've just shared, your stories of retreats and what you learned from them. I would be very interested in them. You can put them into the comment section, but you can send me in private. There will be some contact information below. God bless you guys, and be drunk on the Spirit today. Amen.